Hey everyone, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at the PowerStop Z26 Street Warrior front and rear brake rotor and pad kit fitting 2006 to 2023 Charger all-wheel drive SE, all-wheel drive SXT, as well as Daytona, GT, and RT models with the dual piston front calipers. Now before we dive in too deep here, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, as you heard, this has a bit of a complicated fitment. It fits a bunch of different trims and models of Charger. So just double check it on the website before you buy if this is going to fit your particular car. Brakes are some of the most important components on your vehicle and one that is often overlooked. If you want the ultimate braking upgrade that is both streetable and affordable, PowerStop has got your answer right here. The Z26 Street Warrior brake kit is a high-performance setup that is designed to refresh and upgrade your braking system to provide you with an improved stopping power at an affordable price point. These are a great setup for a daily driven car that also sees some spirited driving. Now, I make no bones about it, I don't like to spend a ton of money on my cars, but there are a few places on my own vehicles where I make doubly sure to spend the money and get good stuff. Brakes are one of those places. Now, I will throw in a personal recommendation before we even get into any of the features of this stuff. I've run PowerStops on several vehicles now, including a tow rig and a vehicle that's gone on track, and they are seriously impressive, especially as compared to your stock brakes. Such is the case, of course, then, with this kit. So we'll start with the most obvious difference from the stock brakes, and those are going to be the rotors. These are drilled and slotted, as you can see, so despite being the same diameter as your stock brakes, these are going to be much better at dissipating heat than your stock solid rotors. Keeping the heat out of the brakes is important. There's nothing scarier than cresting a hill, only to feel the pedal go all squishy. When brakes get hot, they don't work. So these channels and the holes in the face of the rotor are going to help channel that heat away from the rotor and away from your pads, so they're going to run cooler for longer. Now, despite how good the rotors might be, your braking system is only going to be as good as the pads that are clamping down on them. In this kit, you get a set of PowerStop's Z26 pads. These are made using their own proprietary carbon fiber ceramic compound, and that's going to provide you excellent bite and stopping power, which is appropriate for a street-driven muscle car. Now, like the rotors, these pads are going to be excellent at dissipating heat while still maintaining everyday drivability. The key here is balance. These feature chamfered edges, they're thermal scorched for a faster break-in as well. You also get stainless steel shims on the back to help keep noise at bay. And this is really the key to this entire kit, because lots of upgraded brake pads, like a carbon ceramic or something like that, are going to have a compromise when it comes to regular usage, like when you're driving around town with the family. Might be braking feel, but it might also be noise, and that's the most common. The initial bite might come on a bit later than it did with your stock brakes. They might need more heat to work, or they just produce a ton of brake dust. However, that's not the case with these. There is virtually no compromise in performance or feel. In fact, PowerStop claims that these are nearly dust-free. Now, we gotta be honest, no brake pad is gonna be entirely dust-free just due to the nature of how these work, but these are a super low dust formula. It's gonna help keep your wheels a lot cleaner, which is nice if you've got some cool aftermarket wheels on your car, or you're like me and you just can't stand cleaning wheels. And they have a lot of good stuff baked in here, as we already discussed, to keep them from making a ton of noise. So they're not gonna squeal when they're cold. They're just virtually silent operation. These feel and operate basically just like your stock brakes, only they have a lot more bite and they stop your car quite a bit sooner. Another key part of this is the construction. The rotors here are made using something called G3000 metallurgy. So while these are still cast iron rotors, it has a higher percentage of carbon in the metal itself. Like the veins, the holes, and all the other good stuff we were talking about with the pads, that composition is extremely helpful in dissipating heat. These rotors also feature a nice silver zinc electroplating, which is going to help prevent rust and corrosion, so they'll look good and perform well for a long time. Those pads again utilize PowerStop's own carbon fiber ceramic compound that is designed for that excellent heat dissipation, consistent performance and feel, low noise, and low dust. PowerStop also includes all new premium stainless steel hardware, so short of brake lines and full-on calipers, this is going to give you everything you need for a brake overhaul, and it's all really high quality stuff. Coming in at about $600, this is not going to be quite a drop in the bucket. However, good brakes rarely come cheap. And despite this carrying a not so insignificant price tag, believe it or not, it's about the least expensive full brake kit on the market for these Chargers. And that's especially impressive considering you're getting those upgraded pads and rotors too. This is not a place you want to skimp on your car if you drive a lot, if you have mountain roads, or if you're hitting the track. It's worth reiterating here, there's a lot of good stuff baked into both the rotors and the pads, and it comes with everything you need need to get the job done. So if you've got the room and the budget, I highly recommend picking this up. Installation comes in at a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and installing this is definitely a job you can accomplish at home. Expect it to take you around 2 hours or so to complete, maybe a little bit more if you've never done brakes before. This is a totally bolt-on setup, so it doesn't require you to make any modifications to your car, and even if you've never done brakes before, though it may sound intimidating, it's really not that difficult of a job. Once you figure out one corner, basically the rest of it's gonna go together pretty easily. So with that, we're gonna walk you through everything right now, so let's head on out to the shop.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a caliper piston compressor, an 18mm wrench, a caliper hook, an extension, and 13, 18, and 21mm sockets. What's up guys? Today we're installing a set of pads and rotors on our Charger, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the clamshell portion of our caliper. We have two 13mm bolts that we need to remove. Before I do that, I'm going to take a caliper hook and hook it up onto the spring. And then that way, once I pull this clamshell off, I can hang it up onto that caliper hook. So grab a 13mm socket and remove your two bolts. And then you can wiggle your caliper off. Get that hook hooked onto it and put it off to the side. Next, we can grab a 21mm socket to remove our two 21mm bolts holding our caliper bracket into place. And then just get a hand on the bracket before you remove the second bolt. And then slide your bracket off your rotor. And then lastly, for the front, we just need to remove our rotor. Now, mine kind of popped free when I pulled that bracket off. If yours is stuck onto the hub, you can take a hammer, beat around the edges. You have the cutout and the dust shield back here where the caliper sits so that you can get behind and hit with a hammer to pop that off. So now moving on to the rear, we're doing pretty much that same thing. So we're going to start with our 13mm socket to remove our two clamshell bolts. Now if this inner nut is spinning, you can grab an 18mm wrench to hold that while you take that 13mm socket to remove the bolt. Slide your bolt out, wiggle your caliper off, and then you can grab your caliper hook, hook it onto the caliper just like that, and then we can hang that up out of the way. Next, we can take a 19mm socket to remove our two caliper mounting bolts. And once again, just get a hand on your bracket before you remove the second bolt. And then you can slide your bracket off your rotor. And now we can just wiggle our rotor out of place. So now with our caliper brackets and pads removed, we're just gonna pop out our old pads and hardware and install our new ones. So now you can just push your pads out of your clips. And then we're gonna remove these clips. Now if you're having trouble, you can use a flathead screwdriver to just pry them out. And then you can grab your new clips and line those up and press them into place. And then you're going to take your included brake lube. We're going to pull out our slide pins and lube those up, lube up our brackets, and then we can slide our pads in. So now you can just hold down on that rubber boot and pull and twist your slide pin to pop it out. Give it a good wipe, clean it up, and then take that packet of brake lube included in your kit, and then just put a good coating of grease on there. And then just push it back into place. And then just keep doing that same thing for all of them. And then grab some more grease to lube up your clips here. Lube up all the surfaces that your pads are going to contact. And then just get that grease off your finger before you grab your pads. And then you can just line those up and slide them in. And then do that same thing for your other two brackets, and we'll get these on the charger. So now we're going to start off by installing our rotor. Now I've got this backwards on the hub for now so that we can clean the inner side. You're going to grab some brake clean and a clean microfiber towel. Just give it a good spray and wipe, and then we can flip it around and clean the other side. I'm just going to throw a lug nut on here to hold it flat. It's going to make it a lot easier to get your caliper bracket over it. And then spray it down, clean it again. Now we can take our caliper bracket with our pads and slide it over the rotor. And then grab your bolts and line up your holes. And get your thread started. And now you can take your 21mm socket and tighten those down. Now we can grab our caliper off of our hook, and then you can take a brake caliper compressor tool like this to compress your pistons back into place. And then you can get your caliper slid over your new pads. And then thread your two caliper mounting bolts back into place. And then grab your 13mm socket and tighten these down. Now if they start spinning, we'll have to grab that wrench to hold the nuts on the inside. Now ours did start spinning, so I'm just going to grab that 18mm wrench to finish tightening that down. And the same thing on the top. Now the install on the rear is going to be pretty much the same as the install on the front. So once again, I've got the rotor on backwards to start off with. So take your brake clean and a clean microfiber and clean down the surface. And pull it off, wiggle it into place, thread your lug nut on there, and then clean down this side. So now you can take your caliper bracket and slide it over your rotor. And then line up the holes and thread in your bolts. And now grab your 18mm socket and tighten this down. And now once again, grab your caliper compressor tool and compress that piston back into the caliper. And then you slide your caliper over your pads. You might need to push these slide pins in to get it to clear the bracket. And then just thread your two bolts back in. And now grab your 13mm socket and 18mm wrench and tighten these down. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the PowerStop Z26 Street Warrior brake, rotor, and pad kit for the front and rear of your 2006 and newer Charger, all-wheel drive SE, all-wheel drive SXT, Daytona, GT, and RT. Thank you for watching, and for all things Charger, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.